Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining today. My name's Stephen Day, and it's a privilege to host today's Project to Product session. We're joined by two outstanding members of the FileMaker community who will share their experiences of turning a FileMaker custom app into a consumable product. So a little bit about me. I'm one of the partner managers here at FileMaker, and I've been here for just over 6 years, and this is actually my 5th DevCon. I've focused on the vertical market space for about the last 4 to 5 years, and it's been an exciting journey seeing companies grow and seeing the impact they have not only within their own community, but also to ours. Separate from work, I'm all about family. That's my wife and my 3 kids. I've got a 6-month-old, a 4-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And that's us a few weeks ago as we traveled together on vacation. When I'm not at work or not at home, I help coach my son's Little League, and that's some of the kids this year, and that's some of us coaches in the back. So that's what I do in some of the spare time I have. And we're huge Giants fans. That's us with Lucille before our baby was born, but that's all of us at the Giants game with Lucille, and some of you might be familiar with Lucille as a mascot. And lastly, there's a picture of us on a beach. For me, it's very important to travel as a family, expose the kids, expose myself to different things, different places, and that's just a very core part of me. I love meeting people. I love seeing new things. Well, enough about me, right? Today we'll go into the FileMaker program that helps support vertical markets and products, and take a look at this idea of project to product and see how it may look once it's established in the marketplace. So one of my main roles at FileMaker is to manage the Solution Bundle Agreement program, which is designed to support developers and or businesses, such as yourselves, who decide to take the FileMaker custom app to market. We'll dive deeper into some of these ins and outs of the program later, but now, let me simply answer the question some of you in the audience are asking yourselves: what is the SBA program, and where does it fit? Let's take a step back and understand where the program fits. Within the ecosystem, we have the FileMaker Business Alliance, or FBA, which is our partner program. And within this program, you can specialize in a range of things, such as training and hosting. And most of our partners will resell licenses, and this is typically associated with consulting to build out a custom app. What you see in blue is part of the FBA program, but it's not required that you do all things, but can specialize in just one of them. And the purpose of really highlighting this is just to show that the SBA program is part of the bigger FBA program. The SBA program is a huge focus given the revenue and license growth of many of our partners, and this in turn is allowing businesses to grow. The program allows to bundle an approved solution with FileMaker as a single delivered product, as a one-to-many. This simplifies the selling and bundling of an application to multiple end users and organizations. For instance, it's like going to the App Store and downloading a piece of accounting software. In this case, the application is powered by FileMaker. In other industries, you might be familiar with the idea, a term of OEM or white labeling. But what kind of custom apps are good for the SBA program, and what kind of opportunity is there? These solutions and applications can be very niche and fit a very specific need, such as a point of sale or registration system. The focus can be industry specific or have a general application within multiple industries. They can be used on a variety of devices, on desktops, and as we've seen in the industry over the last 5 years or so, a huge focus on mobility. And on the note of mobility, before going any further, do any of you know what these numbers represent? That's over 260 million iPhone and iPads sold last year, fiscal year, according to Apple's report. And if you break that down, that's nearly 30,000 iPad and iPhones sold per hour. Why am I showing you this? One of the reasons is sometimes we get desensitized to the market because of the day-to-day focus. We've got focuses with our business and the things that you go, but there's opportunity there. And so whether you have a solution now that's only on desktop, Or if you're planning to go to market with one, how many of the 30,000 devices sold per hour could you sell into? That's a piece of the opportunity. And these applications can be used anywhere. The workplace is no longer constrained to the cubes and desks at our offices. It's walking up and down warehouse aisles. It's out in the field collecting data. It's walking around the iPad running a report, and there are people across all industries waiting for you to build these fantastic custom apps for them. We talk to them every day. This is a very small sample of solutions out there, but some of these, for example, are very niche and very specific, for instance, to the bakery or tea industry or to the boating industry. Others might be more generalized to the education space or the business space too. This all sounds great, but how do we get there? And where do you get started, and how can you turn that custom app, that idea, or that project into a fully realized product? Well, to help us guide us through the process, allow me to introduce Emory Brown, who is a senior technical project manager at DB Services, who are part of our Platinum FileMaker Business Alliance partnership.
Hey everybody. As Stephen Day said, I'm with DB Services. We're a platinum level consultant, and a lot of our customers are entrepreneurs and business leaders who really know how to take innovation to the next level and take advantage of that. And we believe that part of our mission as consultants is to help our customers grow. And one of the ways they can grow is taking their custom solution that's been built out over months, over years, and take it to the market as a software as a service to create an additional revenue stream. Today I want to walk you through some of the obstacles and lessons learned, as well as keys to success that we found along the way as we help people take their solutions to market. So the roadmap to ready the product is going to include, you're going to want to think about licensing. The solution will likely be licensed by users out to whatever the customer base is. There's a technical component. You're going to want to do that to add some sort of licensing module to your existing solution as it is. Some of the other things you'll want to think about is removing organizational specific features. Oftentimes, custom in-house apps have a lot of very specific workflows that work with very custom workflows that people have developed over the years, but may not be a good fit for a wider market. So you want to kind of generalize and identify what features need to be more customizable or open to other people using different workflows. You're also going to want to consider adding options. Oftentimes, your solution will have many modules or different capabilities, and you may want to segregate it so that you can hit specific target markets. So you may think about turning off specific modules or pricing different tiers of your product, or even splitting it into separate custom apps for different markets and different use cases. Some of these FileMaker apps over the years can gather all sorts of UI components and borrow things from different places. So you'll definitely want to think about how you're going to brand your product and make that unified user experience throughout the product, because that's what users expect. Users expect a unified user experience and a custom app with a great UI. Lastly, one of the things that you'll definitely want to consider is, what is the future of this product? What are other things we can offer in the future that may not exist today? You'll want to take the product to market, and there will always be ideas. It's a creative process, and you'll want to think of what are things we can add in the future. And just like we've seen at FileMaker at the keynote, like, where's this platform going? What are things we're thinking about incorporating that our customers are asking for? You can do the same things in your products with regards to integrations or additional features that users think would be valuable.
So a couple questions in Emory, thinking about it, is you're working with a business owner and you're thinking of planning ahead. How do you give them assistance to agree on certain points on, hey, we come out with version 1 and we come out with version 2. Do you take a lot of lead in there? I mean, I think there's an understanding that there's needs from what the business owner is thinking and also what you've seen in your experience of helping other companies go from project to product.
Yeah, so I think the way I'd answer that question is oftentimes when a product is ready to go to market, you just have to consider through the eyes of other business owners in your industry, whatever the industry may be, what are they likely going to need? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, it does. And the other thing is you talked about putting options into the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying like something that's self-customable to the client, to the potential client, or explain what you mean by options?
Yeah, so by options, I mean your business may encompass, let's say it encompasses several services that other companies in your industry may not all offer. So if we all think of FileMaker as a space, many companies offer consulting, other companies offer hosting. There's different types of services that you can offer. You showed the excellent slide earlier. Not all companies offer all services. The same is true of any industry. So if you have specific options that people may not take advantage of, you could think of selling them as separate products.
And along those notes, and I don't want to jump the gun in any way, is it at this point you think about tiering the product, factoring in those options, tiering that maybe at some point or maybe up front there could be a basic, medium, premium package, or is that too early at this stage?
For sure. I think at the very beginning you want to start thinking about who are your customers, what is the base level going to be, what is that medium tier going to look like, and what's the premium tier, and that also goes into options. If you think about it fundamentally, a lot of your customer base are naturally not going to have a custom system. That's why you're reaching out to them with something you've already invested in, and now you can offer it to them at a low monthly subscription where they don't have to pay for all the custom application up front that you've used to accelerate your business, but they can still take advantage of the features. So you'll definitely want to think about how are smaller companies smaller than us going to use it, how are companies bigger than us going to use it.
And I think that's the reason why I asked that question, is I think seeing other businesses grow and see them grow over time, and finding ways to make opportunity within the solution, and really looking at how to tier that product so that if you're doing this up front when you're planning, and if you're working with someone to do so, you don't have to devalue your product. You're saying, okay, I've got my product, it's priced at this. If you want more, it's going to cost a little bit more, and if you want everything, it's going to cost this much. And in the customer's mind, as they're exploring your product, it's, okay, those are my value points. They're not coming to you of how much money do I get off it. These are the value points, and this is where I can start, or I can start up here and work my way down. So again, that's the reason why I asked that.
Absolutely. Okay, so talking a little bit more technicals, I wanted to talk about the infrastructure that you'll want to consider. You'll definitely want to consider what is your production environment going to look like, what kind of server. I would highly recommend considering FileMaker Cloud. You can get a lot of benefits from that, hosting your solution for your customers so that it becomes a cloud-based solution for them that you're hosting on FileMaker Cloud. It makes a lot of sense economically, and it also allows you some flexibility when it comes to the licensing module that you have to add. It's a lot simpler if you're hosting your own customers versus deploying on-premise solutions. It also may make a little bit less manpower on your end. If you have any plugins or extensions added to your solution, you'll want to consider most plugin providers have a vertical license that you can purchase for the plugin, and you want to consider getting all that stuff in order so that you can release it, and having those plugins set up so that you can roll it out to many copies and many customers. You'll want to think about version tracking. How is it going to look over the course of years as you roll this out to your customers? How are they likely going to upgrade depending on the industry, depending on the market? How often are customers going to be looking and expecting for updates and upgrades? That's another huge benefit of using FileMaker Cloud, is the upgrades are much simpler. You'll definitely want to build a product website to promote your product and send customers to when they have questions, as well as draw in additional business on that website, or potentially another source. You could create product videos, which could cut down on training on your end, showing users how to use the product. And lastly, you want to prepare for distribution. Your solution has all of your proprietary data in it, and you want to consider, how are we going to get that out? What is going to be the best way to show users a system with very little data? You'll probably want to load in some test data and allow users to see, what does the system look like, how do I use it, and kind of play around with it before they actually get their feet wet.
So a couple questions. You talk about managing server environments, or looking at ways to distribute. With some of the things in 17 and things on the API note, what can you share insight on, and how, do you help set up multiple servers and leverage the API?
That's a great question. You can absolutely set up multiple servers as needed. One of the things that I would also recommend is consider, there's a lot of power through the admin API and the other APIs to automate some of this stuff and cut down on manpower. So you'll want to go through and see what does it take to set up a server. You probably want to do it manually the first few times and just set it up. I mean, when you're onboarding your first few customers, it's not the time to try to make it the smoothest process to onboard. Like, that's where you're going to get your feet wet and have some lessons learned. You definitely don't want to focus all your automation on that. You'd probably rather be investing in the product.
Cool. You had shared there about, I think it was, you mentioned support here. Do you mention that? Or
support for the solution?
Yeah, support for solution. Actually, that's, product videos.
Mm-hmm.
On the note of product videos, is that something you help with, or is that, what I've shared with some new partners that are getting on board is sometimes they're already showing this to their existing client base. And my suggestion is if you're already recording it to show to a existing customer, record that, document it, because you don't want to go back and have to do it all over again if you're already doing it. Is this something that you help them do, or is this something that a business would have to do on their own and leverage their own resources?
I would normally recommend that they leverage their own resources, just simply because we are a development shop and we're not, we're consultants, we're developers. We're not necessarily set up with a recording studio that may be to the quality they want. Additionally, that allows them to own the process and make the most efficient use of resources. Okay.
The last question on this, and going back to distribution, is setting up an online store and automating those processes. Are those things that you've helped the couple of businesses that you've brought to becoming a product, or is this, again, they have to leverage their own resources?
I would think that would be a step that would happen with a more mature platform and a more mature product, at which point likely they would have resources in place to do that. Okay. And that would probably be, we could certainly assist our customers with any sort of web development or e-commerce if they needed that. But as far as going through the onboarding and purchasing process, it would be best if they owned sort of that relationship with the customer.
And the reason why I ask, a lot of times when I've spoken to other businesses, they think well ahead, which is great, but they're already thinking, I need to automate an online store. And you're really saying, go through the manual process, and at some point when those resources, or if those resources are available, move ahead with that at that point. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I'm a huge proponent of starting before you're ready, and then starting with the minimum viable. So the minimum viable is absolutely not an online store that's automated. You can put up a website so that people can learn about your product, and then you can have one-on-one consulting with your first customers and get them set up and learn what their challenges are, and create and build relationships that way. And I've seen a lot of success with that.
Cool, thanks. As I had mentioned earlier, the SBA program is part of the bigger partner program, the FileMaker Business Alliance, and you'll need to submit a completed application for review. And you can reach out to me for the link, and it's at the end of these slides. And we will also provide guidelines to how the solution review would look. And the review takes about 10 to 15 days, and the review team will let you know what's working, what isn't, if you haven't passed. There's a couple points on here, Emory. What is beta testing? Some of us in the audience might know what may have heard, but explain a little bit.
For sure. So beta testing would be where, in an ideal world, you would have a customer other than the business who's traditionally used the app, a different business, start to take over and try the application and see how it works for them in their day-to-day, and then communicate back to the SBA company, what are the challenges we're running into, what are some of the features we'd like to see, what are some of the things we don't understand. Naturally, different people are going to have different experiences when they interface with an app, and if this is an application that's been used internally for years, there's going to be a lot of just inference and knowledge that's in people's heads that new customers may not have. So that's the key thing to focus on in beta testing, is having one or several businesses other than the original business testing the application and having that open communication loop so that you can decide what needs to happen for the product to be fully market ready.
All right. Well, thanks, Emory. We're going to get back to Emory in a little bit. Now we have the recipe of getting from a project to product. You're ready to go to market, and as we saw, an important piece of that process is the SBA program, which we quickly overviewed at the top of our session. So let's dive a little deeper, a little further into the program and how you can leverage it for success. It's part of the FBA program. Well, I've shared that with you already, and currently there's no additional cost for the SBA program. There are opportunities to do joint webinars and having exposure on our website, FileMaker.com. You'll have licensing choices for both annual and perpetual licensing, and the majority of our participants are in an annual agreement and have seen the significant growth through recurring revenue. And you'll see an example of this later on. And with a 50% margin on your licenses, you'll be able to offer parts or all of the FileMaker platform in a variety of tiers. The bigger benefit of the SBA program is that you're able to bundle your solution with FileMaker as a single delivered product, and will simplify on how you will sell your solution moving forward. And before going into use case, I'd like to share with you what the potential opportunity could look like. So in this example, let's start off with a 5-user pack as a baseline. And from there, we would add 9 more 5-packs throughout the year, given the current minimum purchase for the year is a total of 50 licenses or connections. And so where do you feel the impact of this SBA pricing and this $90 per user per year number? Let's look at this example given this information. We'll start off with the product that you're selling. $90 per user per year averages to be about $7.50 per month. So let's include that in the product price, which totals at, in this example, just under $40. Again, I'll point out that this price point is based on only this example, and it's not a rule of thumb. I'm not telling you you need to sell your solution for this. SBA solutions are marketed across all pricing tiers and across a huge spectrum. So let's also factor in a factored growth of about 25 users every quarter. That's 2 new users per week, or 8 new users a month. And here's a graph representing what the first 3 years will look like, aggregating growth quarter over quarter. And that's using that baseline of a solution costing under $40 a month. And if you're to add up the totals for each year, year one's gains are about $6,000. Nothing big, but it's building that recurring revenue. And year 2 gains are a total of 30. I'm just adding the columns up for each quarter. Again, this is an example of how recurring revenue on a subscription model can look like. And this is based upon the modest growth of only 2 new users a week. Now let's look at the columns for year 3, which total a number of just under $60,000 by adding up the columns for Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. You can see here the benefits of recurring revenue tied to a basic subscription model. It's totaling a total of 60. This doesn't factor in the tiering of a product with different price points, and doesn't factor in the other services that Emory had mentioned that you can tie into your solution also. Again, I'm using the $40 per month purely as a baseline, and it's not to say you need to sell a solution for that much. It's to give you an idea of recurring revenue and the subscription model. So let's recap real quick. You were provided the FBA platform, the FileMaker platform, at a 50% margin, which allows you to start with a small customer base for the first year, allows you to grow, with lots of opportunity to grow your customer base given the benefits of the subscription model. And again, I have to reiterate this, the purpose of these slides are to give you an idea of what recurring revenue looks like. So some of you in the audience today might be current FBAs with potential solutions for the vertical space, while others might be new to the space overall. I think I've met some of you earlier on this week, and that you are interested in what this program can do for you. You'll need to make sure you are in the FBA program and that you'll provide your solution for review. And as I shared earlier, the minimum requirements is a total of 50 licenses or connections for the year. And if you were to look at the higher cost of it, you're looking to spend just under $5,000 on licensing for the initial year. I'd like to bring Emory back as he has some tips and tricks, things that he's seen successful with the businesses that he's helped to go from project to product.
Absolutely. So one of the keys to success that I've seen is really having an industry thought leader and an innovator at the head of the business who we're assisting to take to market. An additional very useful thing would be interested parties or connections within the industry, business connections, conferences they go to that they can show their product so that they can get the word out there quickly. And drum up interest in the product. Typically, as FileMaker consultants who help our customers SBA applications, we would let them sort of market the product and sell it in whatever way they saw fit based on their industry. As Steven said, there's a wide spectrum depending on what industry and what the expected value that their application is bringing. I always coach my customers, anyone who has an SBA program, to really treat it as a separate business from whatever business has brought them to that point. You will want to start to build a support team, some sort of technical support that customers can call other than the business owner. Some people who can start to roll out new versions, onboard new customers, answer basic questions. Those are all keys to success. Lastly, you definitely want to consider what kind of integrations can we offer. As the world gets more and more connected, people expect that their apps talk to everything, and those will be sort of things that you'll start to want to build in your product. Different integrations that other people use, connecting to popular platforms that a lot of people in the industry may be using for their business. And this is definitely feedback that you want to be open to during the beta testing as well.
Are there any integrations that you can talk to or have experience with, or can you give a little bit more?
For sure. There's always a need when it comes to custom applications that have any sort of like workflow or ordering to integrate with accounting platforms such as QuickBooks or other platforms that other people are using. And again, this would be based on the industry. Different industries prefer different accounting platforms. Additionally, your customers may be using certain other popular mail platforms, Office 365, Google, different things like that, that you may offer integrations to so that they can have automations that make them more efficient and more effective.
Okay. You shared the idea of having the industry thought leader. I think some of us might be familiar as having someone who's a subject matter expert in that space. And Emory tied to it the importance of having that. I have to definitely agree, because if you've got a subject matter expert or you've got that industry thought leader, they probably belong to organizations and groups and meetups that people look up to them. And if they've got this captured audience, I really believe that's a good sign that you've got an influencer, and that's a key word, influencer within that space. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. You touched on like marketing and sales. Again, you focus on development. Is this something that you encourage people to explore, or I try to identify up front that they do have a sales person or a sales focus?
I would definitely encourage them to consider what is their method to get the word out there. Where are they going to promote the product? How are they going to advertise online or in physical spaces? And then what is their sales strategy as far as that? Typically, a lot of entrepreneurial business owners are salespeople at heart, or or have someone in the business who's strong in that suit. So some of those can definitely influence their decisions. But as far as being an industry thought leader, that is one of the selling points. I mean, if you've built a product for your industry, you can say it was built by us for our industry. We know what we're doing, and we've used it for these years to make us successful, and this is our growth. And so almost the story of the original business can sell the product.
Good. I come to think about the keynote and how that applies here. We talk about workplace innovation, and it's an entrepreneur, and that's also tying Rich Braden, the guest speaker, thinking about the entrepreneurship and thinking about how this product could be used in other workplace environments. So thank you for highlighting that.
So I'm going to share a few lessons learned just to wrap up my part here. You definitely want to document all your processes. Steven touched on this, but your processes are part of your business. How you onboard a customer, what are the things to look out for, how do you roll out a new version. These start to become processes, and you absolutely want to document them. Start by writing it down, find some sort of online tool that you can keep track of them with, and that will ensure that over the course of time, as you introduce more people into the team to support the product, you have consistent results for your customers. You always want to offer options. I'm going to reiterate that. You always want to offer and cater to the market and try to segregate it so that you can have it to smaller businesses smaller than you, businesses the same size as you, businesses larger than you can all take advantage of your product. I always recommend soft launching updates to the product. What I mean by this is likely your business is still using the product, or you have those close customers who were your first beta testers. Often you want to roll out new major updates as beta to those customers before you push it to your whole customer base, if you have the ability to do that. Lastly, you want to keep rigorous versions. You want to consider, once someone's on 3 or 4 versions ago, how are we going to get them onto the latest version when they're ready to upgrade? So you definitely need to keep that in consideration. Otherwise, it will come back to bite you.
So on like that version control piece, how far do you go back? How far do you think someone should support, or is it a case by case?
I would definitely say it's case by case, in that I mean, the world is changing faster and faster, so you want to try to influence your customers to be on the latest version, but that won't always be practical depending on the industry.
Got it. You tie in a question I have on support. Again, is this something that you would say an FBA would offer to support that customer and their future clients, or what is that process, or is that a totally different conversation?
Yeah, we absolutely offer support as an SBA for our customers for technical support or enhancements. There typically will always be some sort of support, or customer use it in a new way. I mean, you have a very wide customer base now, so a lot of support comes in when they use it in an unexpected way and it did something unexpected, and so you have to step in there. So you should definitely be budgeting for support as far as having those development resources available for technical support, as well as considering how can we allocate development resources to expand the platform.
Yeah, thank you, Emory. I appreciate you walking us through that path and giving a little insight to what you've experienced with going from project to product with the ones that you've worked with. We'll have Emory join later on if we have time for Q&A. And thank you again, Emory. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So I think there's a few things here that aren't covered, and I think it's a totally different subject, and I wanted to focus on the idea of a project to product and then take a look at a product and how it looks like after a period of time. And I think there's things that you would have to explore on your own, and we can find resources for you to talk to with people with that experience. You think about marketing, you think about sales, and also support once your solution matures. And I think that's a subject that we can, these are other things that you would have to explore along this. Going back to the marketing and sales, I think this is going to be something very, very important, is because you can have an amazing solution, but if you don't have a marketing or sales strategy to support you after year 1 and year 2, your expectations might not be met. And I say this by seeing some businesses, and you've got all the momentum in year 1, you're very hyped up about your solution, but you don't have a plan for year 2 or year 3. You think you just can put your solution out there and it'll just sell. And I think that's many people's goals, is I can create something and it'll just sell. But the ones I've seen that have been very successful are people that have a sales focus and a marketing focus, so that as they build up in that first year, second year, they're not going to go flat or plateau. They've got sales and goals in mind, and then you go into year 3 with that same expectation and that same focus. You've built all that recurring revenue, as that slide showed. So I think the idea of just, hey, I can create something and put it out there, not do anything behind it, I would say that is something that you would not want to do. So some of you in the audience today might be current business owners who have a custom app being used as an internal tool or project, with the potential of being packaged up as a product to serve other companies in your industry. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Tanya Van Sant, and she's the founder and president of Artbase. Hey, welcome, Tanya. How do you do?
Good, how you doing?
Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Can you hear me? My name is Tanya Van Sant. I am the president and one of the founders of Artbase. We've been doing this for 25 years. Started in 1993 with my husband, Jeremy, and I became president and took over the company about 12 years ago. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our product. Again, we started 25 years ago. We have over 1,000 existing clients. We provide solutions to art galleries, artists, collections, museums, foundations, basically art businesses. We have a worldwide presence. We basically have clients all over the world, pretty much on any continent that there is people doing business. We have clients there. Let's talk a little bit about the perks of having a vertical. So we have a vertical solution, obviously, that we provide to these businesses. The perks of doing this is we don't have to reinvent the wheel with every new client. We basically have a product that we sell. We have a steady income, constant and steady income. We also have a predictable budget, which is obviously really handy. You know exactly what you're going to be making every single month. More predictable budget allows you to hire more people and grow the business. It's also an easier upgrade path for your clients, so it makes it easier on them. Obviously, if you're making a custom solution for one person, and then you've got maybe 30 custom solutions that are all completely different, and then new technology comes out, and you go to DevCon and you learn about all kinds of new stuff that you want to put into those solutions, you're going to basically have to completely reinvent the wheel again for each of your individual clients, rather than making one upgrade that works for all of them and selling it to all of them. And then it's easier to delegate to a staff and step into a leadership role. So for me in general, that meant the first basically 10 years of the company, when we were doing business, it was just my husband and I. And we were trugging along. Even though we had a product, we weren't on a subscription model yet. And so after about 10 years, we switched to a subscription model, and that allowed us to, and that you can kind of look at, the results of that were, it went from the two of us to essentially now we are a staff of basically 8. We have constant and steady income. I, work in the office 3 days a week. My husband is basically retired. It makes a big difference in, what you can do with your time. So
the question on that, I think it's on personal, like, what is the work-life balance? Going from, hey, I'm using this custom app within my company, and it's working, and then identifying like, wow, we could sell this and make that transition. What is that work-life balance, and pros, cons?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning we were making all these custom solutions. I mean, I think our time was being poured into we kind of thought we had to build something special for each individual client. Even though we were only doing really art galleries and artists, we were still kind of reinventing the wheel for each one. So when we finally switched over to a subscription model and realized that we really needed to focus on making the product very universal and making it easier to do upgrades, then obviously, we had a lot more time on our hands, and we were able to have a budget and be able to hire more people to be able to have more time on our hands. So we find it very important that you have a work-life balance. That's really important to us.
And going back to the very beginning, did you know you wanted to make this into a product? Or going back 20 years, where did you think this would lead you to, and where you are now?
No, initially we were both working in art galleries, so we thought we were just making a product for ourselves and our friends and some people in the industry, and so we were pretty young at the time, and so we were kind of like, oh my God, people want to pay us for this thing, So that just kind of got exciting. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, great. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some tips and tricks. When you are going to a vertical solution, I would recommend that you gather information from multiple sources on how processes work. So we were working in art galleries, but our source of information was really just 2 galleries. So because there's this general thing that happens, which is every single person in an industry thinks that they do things the right way. They're wrong. 1 out of 100 are correct on that. But basically, so the idea is to not assume that the way that you're doing things are the right ways, that go out and gather information. You do that by asking people, asking other people how they do things, and you do that either by polling people, or in our case, we basically spent, some years installing the program in different places and then gathering the good ideas that we got out of each of those, clients that we had. So don't trust your own way of doing things. Everybody thinks their way is the right way, so you want to create a universal product, and you do that by pulling information from other people. And then I strongly recommend that you create a very robust settings or preferences file in your solution, and that's for all the ways that your clients will be different. So you make a product that is as universal as possible, but you're not going to cover everybody. So the way to cover that is you make a robust settings file, basically choices and selections that they can make in a settings file that allows them to change the way that things look on screen, the way things print out. Some examples of that are, for example, everybody in the art world wants a different looking invoice. They want it to look special and perfect and, what they think is pretty and nice. And so we basically, over our many years of experience and our hundreds of clients, we figured out that there was about 5 different templates and ways that people were printing their invoices. Rather than having to go in and customize the invoice to make it look the way they wanted it to, we basically created 5 templates that they can choose from. So they go into the settings file and they select the template that they want. But then there's other things that they can change about it. They can change the font and the margins. They can change, if they're in Europe, they can change it to A4. And it basically, with that little selection, it changes the entire program, to A4 printing. The other example is, for example, we have a lot of clients in Europe and in other countries, and so they can make one little selection. It changes the currency for the entire program to euros or wherever they are. Dating formats, things like that, also get changed when they're in Europe. So those are examples of what we have in the settings file. And then I would say switch to a subscription billing model as soon as possible. Obviously that just goes back to what I was saying about having a steady income coming in. You just want to be on a subscription model from the beginning if you can. We learned our lesson. Don't do my 10 years of not doing subscription and being alone. Get a subscription model, and that will, give you some income. And I would also suggest something that I went for many years trying to do a billing system ourselves. In FileMaker, as FileMaker developers, you kind of think you can do it yourself because you can make a solution that does it. For me anyway, and I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but when I switched to a good SaaS billing system, we use something called Chargeify. And basically, they're doing my billing for me. They're basically, it's a really good way online to track all of our billing. We selected them. There's a lot of different options out there to do your billing with, but I selected them because we have a lot of clients who are either old-fashioned and they don't want to pay with a credit card, they want to pay with a check, or we have a lot of clients all over the world and they can't pay with a credit card, they need to pay with wire transfer, and this particular solution allowed me to do that. Send out invoices and then, get payments however I want. So I recommend that.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
And within the package that you offer your clients, what do you provide, and do you tier the product, or do you have additional services that you say we can do this?
It's tiered based on licenses. So first license, so in Emory's model, he was saying, or no, that was yours, $40 about, per user. We don't do that. We actually ramp it up. So first is, $195, and then it ramps up to $37 a user for up to 5, and then so on. It goes lower from that. So the services that we provide with that subscription are unlimited phone and email support. We do, let them call as many times as they want to. We also allow them to get upgrades and updates. That's included in the subscription. We also provide some training when they purchase the program. I find that if they actually get an hour of personalized training, that just cuts down on our support later. So we actually do personalized training. We also have really robust training videos on our website. And so, every little part of the program we have a separate video for. We also provide installation assistance, both when they install and when they upgrade. And we also include a data transfer. So this is actually one of my tricks, at least for me, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for your business model, but for us it worked that the reason that people stuck with us over time was because we did a lot of hand-holding. In an industry where people are very tech averse in the art industry, they're not geeks, they're basically art people. So the more hand-holding that we did and the more time that we took with them, it basically made them very loyal to us. So that's why we've lasted as long as we have in an industry where a lot of our competitors have come up and then gone down. We've stuck because we gave them all of this support. We charge more than our competitors, but we give a lot more. So that's actually worked for us as a model.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you always had a pay, was it always included, the support, or did you always have it as a separate piece?
We've always been, into hand-holding, so we provided a lot of support. Even before we had the subscription model, we were providing a lot of support. So, now we can actually make money on it.
Any other tips and tricks you want to highlight? Anything else you want to close out with?
I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah, for now.
Again, if we have time, which we should have about 10 minutes at the end. We'll have Tanya and Emory up here for questions, and then if we finish early, we can have conversations too. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Tanya. So just a little recap. We went over the SBA program. We walked you through this idea of project to product. And there's partners out there, such as the company Emory works for, that can walk you through this. There's probably pieces that are separate subjects to talk on, marketing, sales, and support. And we can take that on conversations and find resources for you that. And then we looked at a product that has been in the marketplace for at least 20 years, more recently in the last 10, 15 years as an actual product, and seeing the successes and some tips and tricks that they've found beneficial to them. What are your next steps? We've got multiple partner managers in the FileMaker ecosystem. We've got a resource in the east of the Americas, the west in Canada. That's me and myself. We've got Marie out in Europe, in EMEA. Oops, next slide. And we've got David out of Asia Pac and Australia. And then we've got Kazuki in Japan and Korea. Their contact information's on here. And again, if you've got your packet you would have got these little cards inside your packet registration. If you open up, all that information is there. And we got fancy and we used a QR code so you can actually scan that and get to some specific information too. So there's some links behind that, so please use that for resources. A couple web links too. This is what the QR code leads to. I want to say thank you again to Emory Brown from DB Services and to Tanya Van Sant from ArtBase. Any questions? No, for every single approved solution you have, it's a minimum of 50 licenses or connections for each. So for instance, if you have 3 approved solutions, after that year's gone by, it'd be a total of 150 licenses or connections. At this present time, there isn't. If there's a significant change in the product, we will encourage you to submit it for re-review because we want to make sure we're aligned. But if it's just an update because, hey, we needed to add an options field here or change a layout, there isn't. There.
What if they have a license through a previous SBA? For example, I might have an inventory system. I sell it to somebody who already has a CRM. So they have their license through that SBA partner. And then I'm going to sell them my solution, does that mean that customer gets 2 FileMaker licenses?
You are bundling your solution with FileMaker, and so that's what you're delivering as a product.
But they already have that through their CRM that they also purchased in FileMaker.
Again, I think it's more of a nuance. It would really depend if they own those licenses, or if that other solution is an SBA solution. Then yes, if both are SBA solutions, you would bundle both with FileMaker licensing.
So the customer would end up with 2 different FileMaker licenses.
In essence, yes, but in their mind, they've bought ABC company's solution, not just FileMaker. They've bought CRM and they've bought accounting software, and that's how the solutions are being sold. It's not, hey, I'm using this solution with FileMaker. It's I'm using an accounting piece of software powered by FileMaker, and that's how you would sell it, and that's how they would connect.
Because the renewal would come through us, right? So that's why they wouldn't care about the license.
I didn't hear that.
Because the renewal would come through us as the SBA.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, yeah, good, thanks.
Apple is, through its App Store, is culling a lot of apps. So what are the design concerns or standards that you have to be conscious of when developing a product and selling it through the App Store? Could you speak to some of that, like the design constraints that you maybe have, or do they come from FileMaker? Do they come through, do you design for Apple? How do you go through that process?
Sure.
Many questions, sorry.
Yeah. I think there's a couple things. So there's obviously the original review of the application through the SBA program to get approved, which does include a UI component review. I would absolutely recommend aligning with Apple Human Interface guidelines. I don't know that a lot of SBA programs are deployed directly through the App Store, through the Apple App Store, that is. If you were to do that, you would absolutely have to align with every letter of Apple's design guideline. But typically applications are deployed, as Stephen said, just as their own. This is some cloud accounting software. Like your customer doesn't necessarily need to know the technicals of what it's deployed on and what platform you've leveraged to build the application. So in that regard, I mean, we saw images of ArtBase. You can certainly create your own custom UI with whatever guidelines or interface that you see fit or already exist in the application.
So your route from a design perspective is, for the most part, independent of those considerations, because your licensing or your review is through FileMaker. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Question for Tanya. In your experience, is it better to lock down the application or leave it open?
Lock it down. Strictly, yeah.
Okay.
We have a few custom clients that we do customizations for, and some are very elaborate customizations. In general, most of our clients are on the upgrade path and purchase the out-of-the-box version. But yeah, we don't let anybody do any changes but us.
And that prevents anybody outside developers from accessing the files to make changes for the independents.
Yeah, we got burned with that long ago.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Stay.
Sure.
This is kind of a follow-on question to that. You mentioned customization for some of your clients. How do you handle keeping that separated and handling updates and so forth as they come along? You know, if you have some major new features that you add in your regular product, then you're faced with the problem of how to add those to the customized solution. Can
It's
you speak to that a
challenging.
little?
Yeah, it's challenging. Basically, we keep track. We actually have a database sort of hidden inside each person's product of ArtBase, and we track all changes that are made to the database in there. Every tech that makes a change makes it, tracks it in there, but it is still challenging. We basically have to remake those changes every time they upgrade. So we try to discourage custom changes. Yeah. And we make them expensive. Our customizations bills are high to discourage that.
Any other questions? We've got 5 minutes left, and if I can give you 5 minutes back in your day, so be it. I think you'll welcome those 5 days. 5 days, 5 minutes. I wish 5 days. But if you have any questions, one last one.
You mentioned including support. Do you have a ballpark percentage? How do you calculate what, if you're going to include support, how do you calculate what percentage of that is going to come out of what you charge?
Depends on the client. Certain clients take 100%.
Yeah.
Some we never hear from. So we basically gamble. You know, we kind of just say, in our experience, because we have 25 years of it, we see that if we give unlimited support to people, most of the time they don't take advantage of it. There are those who really take advantage of it and are problem clients, and you know, we suffer through them. But we know that there's a lot of clients out there who never call us, and we just kind of, you know, deal with that. We provide support. We're a small company. We provide support during gallery hours, 10 to 6, Monday through Friday. We don't have 24 hours, 7 days a week support. But our clients seem to understand that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Very good. Let's wrap up. Again, thank you to Tanya and Emory for joining us, and thank you for coming here today.